The memory of the German occupation is not only in the minds of those who lived through it, but on the rugged coastline which formed part of Hitler's Atlantic War. And here at the sinister underground hospital, built by slave labour and unfinished at the liberation. I call it sinister because we know that many Russian prisoners of war died in harsh conditions here. Today, the hospital's privately owned, but I don't think you'll find a visitor who comes to Jersey without coming here. Built under a hillside, the hospital is fascinating, but you shouldn't miss the exhibition which explains how and why it was built. This was never intended to be a hospital. It was built as an artillery barracks to serve German units stationed along Jersey's coast, part of the Atlantic Wall. In 1944 it was converted to a hospital, possibly because the German High Command expected heavy casualties from the fighting in Normandy just 14 miles away. The main tunnels were completed, but many side passages were left unfinished, and we know that Russian and Spanish slave workers died during the construction. The hospital was built under a hillside and it's absolutely fascinating, but make sure you allow time to visit the exhibition. It's well worth a visit and explains how and why the hospital was built. It's a moving exhibition in which the organisers have tracked down photographs of some of those who worked here in such appalling conditions. Jersey has strong memories of the slave workers, many of whom escaped and were sheltered by local people until the liberation in 1945. Since Jersey is loyal to the Crown, it's always had a governor, and in 1600 they gave this job to Sir Walter Raleigh, and he lived here at Elizabeth Castle, or as he liked to call it, Fort Isabella Bellissima. But we all know he was absolutely mad about Queen Elizabeth I. Getting to Elizabeth Castle is an adventure in itself. When the tide is in, you need to use this amphibian, a duck, made for use on D-Day and still giving service over 50 years later. This is where Walter Raleigh was governor from 1600 for 3 years. As a peculiar of the Crown, Jersey has always had a governor, and for many years Elizabeth Castle was his home. This is a fantastic castle. Some say it's one of the foremost sites in Europe, and the Jersey Museum Service has been busy creating a museum in the barracks to show what life was like in the 17th century. The models here show how the castle evolved from an abbey into the fortress of today, thanks to Sir Walter and the architect Paul Ivy. A cross in the centre of the parade ground marks where they think the abbey once stood. One thing they're sure about, however, is the site of the hermitage, home to St Helier, the hermit after whom the island's capital is named, and who was murdered by brigands just when he was starting to spread the message of Christianity. Tradition dies hard in Jersey, and here at Elizabeth Castle they still fire the noonday gun.